promoting dialogue.
It's May Day in Dakar, 1 o'clock in Abuja. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Authorities in Nigeria confirm at least 30 fatalities following a series of stampedes during palliative distribution events and at a fun fair.
They enforced the gates and forced themselves inside. Those people at the front fell down. All the people at their back were sitting down here, watching them. They are marching on them.
Ghana's opposition NDC rejects the Electoral Commission's results of 7 out of 9 outstanding constituencies in favor of the ruling NPP after recollation of recent election results. Central Mali thrown into mourning after a weekend terrorist attack leaves 26 civilians dead.
The
situation continues to deteriorate. Despite the massive presence of security forces in recent days, terrorist groups are spreading terror. On Friday evening, they attacked more than 6 villages, resulting in 26 deaths.
And Ivorian opposition leader Tijan Cham calls for electoral register update and party unity ahead of 2025 elections. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Augustine Coley with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast and welcome to our listeners within the West African sub-region and beyond. This edition begins in Nigeria, where tragedy has struck once again as a series of stampedes during palliative distribution events claimed numerous lives, shedding light on the country's escalating hunger crisis. In this report, WADR's Usma Umar in Abuja indicates that calls are mounting for government to take stringent measures to halt the needless loss of lives.
In the capital, Abuja, chaos erupted at the Holy Trinity Catholic Church in Maitama area, where over 3,000 people gathered early in the morning to receive aid. The massive crowd led to a stampede, leaving at least 10 people dead, including 7 children. Some worshippers shared their accounts of the incident.
We are here more than 10,000 in the morning, and the amount of people that want to enforce these gates to open, they are more than 3,000. They pushed. They refuse to be disciplined. Calm down. Go in gently. They enforce the gates and force themselves inside. Those people at the front fell down. All the people at their back were sitting down here, watching them. They are marching on them.
This thing surprised me this year. The crowd we did this year, we never see.
A similar tragedy unfolded in Anambra State during a rice distribution event in Okija community. While the exact death toll remains unclear, reports suggest that more than 20 lives were lost, with disturbing videos showing victims lying lifeless at the scene. Here are some eyewitnesses at the Okija scene.
When they opened the gate, people started rushing inside. The next thing, they started sending people back again. While they are sending them back, the ones outside are pushing in. So the crowd was much. People were just falling off.
Like about 20 plus people gave up here. So it's a sad incident.
These incidents follow a heartbreaking stampede in Ibadan just days ago, which claimed the lives of 32 children, further highlighting the dire conditions many Nigerians face daily. Observers say the overwhelming turnout at these events reflect the deepening poverty and desperation gripping the nation. The urgent need for improved social safety nets and a coordinated response to a growing humanitarian crisis cannot be overstated. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
Crossing over to the Sahel region, particularly central Mali, is mourning, with at least 26 people killed late last week in a series of attacks by armed groups. Several villages in the Banjagara region were targeted by JNIM, the group for the support of Islam and Muslims, which has claimed responsibility for the assaults. The Malian army, for its part, announced that it had neutralized about a dozen terrorists in this area. However, the security situation remains a serious concern for local populations. Abdullahi Hassan has the details.
In total, 7 villages in the Banjagara region located in central Mali were attacked by fighters from JNIM. The series of assaults left at least 26 civilians dead. Villages were burned and livestock was looted. Amadou Luge is a youth leader from the Banjagara region.
La situation ne fait que se détériorer. Alors,
the situation continues to deteriorate. Despite the massive presence of security forces in recent days, terrorist groups are spreading terror. On Friday evening, they attacked more than 6 villages, resulting in 26 deaths. The victims are solely civilians, defenseless members of the population. Most of them are elderly people and women. The destruction is immense, as these groups not only burn down villages but also seize all the livestock. Truly, we are deeply pained and outraged.
For several months, the region has faced numerous terrorist attacks, forcing thousands of people to flee their homes. They now have an urgent need for humanitarian assistance.
In this season of cold weather and conflict, imagine the plight of these internally displaced persons who have fled their hometowns and are now in places like Bandiagara, Sevare, Mopti, and other major cities, often without shelter. This is a severe humanitarian crisis and they urgently need assistance. As for us, we are intensifying our efforts and consultations to provide support to these internally displaced persons and others affected by these attacks.
Following this series of attacks, the army announced in a statement over the weekend that it had neutralized about a dozen terrorists in the region. As a reminder, a week ago, at least 9 people were killed by armed men in the locality of Chez, also in the Bandiagara region.
Abdullahi Hassan voiced that report fight by WADR's Bamako correspondent Aliyu Cham. Still on matters relating to security, tensions between Nigeria and Niger are simmering following accusations by Niger that Nigeria is acting as a fear base for the destabilization of its government. These claims stem from the recent attack on the Niger-Benin oil pipeline in the Dozo region, which Niger's authorities say was carried out by the Lakwara terrorist group with the alleged support of Nigerian security forces. However, Nigeria has strongly rejected these accusations, expressing condolences for the attack, but asserting that the Nigerian government had no involvement. Christopher Teacher reports.
Nigeria has denied claims by Niger that it is involved in destabilizing the country. In a statement released on Saturday, Nigeria's Ministry of Foreign Affairs rejected the accusations that Nigerian forces were supporting the Lakwara terrorist group, which attacked the Niger-Benin oil pipeline on December 13, 2024. The ministry expressed condolences to Niger, but firmly stated that the perpetrators of the attack were not assisted by Nigeria. Additionally, the Nigerian government dismissed reports of French soldiers being stationed in northern Nigeria to destabilize Niger, calling these accusations baseless. The statement follows a protest launched by Niger's Foreign Minister Bakary Yao Sangari, who summoned Nigeria's charged the affairs in Niamey to express Niger's concerns. Niger also mentioned the presence of former officials from the deposed Nigerian government in Nigeria and what it considers hostile foreign military base in Niger. This diplomatic dispute marks a significant deterioration in relations between the two countries, which has worsened since July 2023 coup in Niger. Niger's military authorities have criticized Nigeria's enforcement of ECOWAS sanctions, including the closure of borders and suspension of electricity supplies, which have further strained their bilateral ties. Moreover, Nigeria's support for a potential military intervention to reinstate deposed President Mohamed Bazoum has added to the tensions.
Christopher Teacher with that report. Meanwhile, French multinational company Orano has initiated international arbitration against the state of Niger following the withdrawal of its operating permit for the Imowaran uranium deposit in June 2024. The decision comes after months of failed mediation attempts and escalating tensions between the two parties. Orano claims the permit withdrawal is unjustified and undermines its investments, signaling a broader dispute over Niger's mining reforms. The situation has been compounded by Niger's seizure of Orano's local subsidiary Soma of paralysis in mining activities and blocked uranium stocks that's worth estimated €300 million.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Let's now travel to Liberia, where the House of Representatives has unanimously passed the 2025 fiscal year national budget, amounting to $880 million. This budget, according to the government, is inclusive and addresses key national priorities, including salary increment for health workers, paramilitary officers, teachers, and civil servants. It also makes significant allocations to state-owned enterprises and key ministries, ensuring the effective functioning of critical institutions. WADR's Grace Joshua Monrovia completes the story.
After the House of Representatives forwarded the budget through the Senate for concurrence, the Liberian Senate unanimously approved the fiscal year 2025 national budget, concurring with the House of Representatives' earlier endorsement of the $888 million United States dollars financial blueprint. The majority bloc, under the leadership of Speaker Richard Nankwe Kun of District 11 Masurado County, passed the budget on Thursday, December 19, 2024, before forwarding it to the Senate for concurrence. In a special section convened on Friday, December 20th, 2024, the Senate plenary ratified the instruments following a motion introduced by Grand Crew County Senator Humanity H. Batikwa. The session saw some procedures debate with Riverside County Senator Wellington Jevon Smith requesting an on-field record to vote, a request that was granted by the Senate President Pro Tem Yomli Kanga Lawrence. After the vote, Pro Tem Kanga Lawrence instructed the Senate Secretariat to formally notify the executive branch, finalizing the legislative approved process for fiscal year 2025 financial blueprint.
Responsibility allows us to track the activities of the budget. We encourage all committees to work with the ministries and agencies on a quarterly basis. If you do that effectively, we ensure that payments are made, and that when the budget is struck, you know that there will be no outstanding. They are outstanding. They need to come and answer to you, but not on the day that you are passing the budget.
The passage of the national budget for 2025 marked an important step in meeting the needs of the citizens and strengthening governance structures across the country. For West Africa Democracy Radio, I'm Grace Joshua in Monrovia.
To electoral matters now, Ghana's Electoral Commission has declared 7 out of the 9 remaining constituencies in favor of the ruling NPP after a recollation of the results. The Commission had refused to uphold the results of these constituencies because of the irregularities, including what the Commission claims were declarations on duress by some of its agents, instigated by some political parties. However, the main opposition party, which is now the government in waiting, has rejected the new declarations describing the recollation process as illegal. WADR's Nadia Titi has the rest of the details.
Ghana's Electoral Commission on December 21 recollated and announced the results for 7 of the 9 disputed constituencies following a High Court ruling. These constituencies were contested after the 2024 general elections. In Ahafo North, Eric Nanajiman Prempe of the NPP narrowly defeated Kwesi Edusei of the NDC. In Techiman South, Martin J. Mensah secured 46,663 votes, beating Christopher Beire Basonti of the NDC, who garnered 43,429 votes. Other tight races including Ahafo South, Ahafo Southwest, and in Sawamedredri, where Elvis Osei Dapa and Frank Anodompre of the NPP edged their NDC rivals by 140 and 207 votes, respectively. Patrick Boachi Yadom of the NPP retained his seat in Obuasi East, while Patrick Yabwama of Okankwe Central and Charles Forson in Tema Central were declared winners after the reversal of earlier results favoring the NDC's Baba Sadiq and Abi Bright. Results from Ablekuma North and Dom Kwabenya remain suspended, with the EC's Director of Electoral Services, Benjamin Banobio, stating that a decision will be made soon.
We will also refer that issue to the Electoral Commission for them to make a determination. And so for the 7, we are done with them.
The opposition National Democratic Congress has rejected the results, accusing the EC of unlawful conduct. Dr. Rashid Tanko Computer is a Deputy Director of IT and Elections for the NDC.
Clearly, you could see that these were planned between MPP and Electoral Commission to hoodwink Ghanaians to believing that they were doing a right thing.
On December 20, the NDC filed an application at the Supreme Court seeking an order to quash the High Court's ruling and restrain the EC from recollating the results. However, the EC proceeded, indicating that it had not been served with any legal processes. For WADR, Nadidi Tete, Accra.
You are listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of the top stories. Authorities in Nigeria confirm at least 30 fatalities following a series of stampedes during palliative distribution events and at a farm fair. Ghana's opposition NDC rejects the Electoral Commission's results of 7 out of 9 outstanding constituencies in favor of the ruling NPP after recollation of recent election results. Central Mali thrown into mourning after a weekend terrorist attack leaves 26 civilians dead. Still ahead in the news, Ivorian opposition leader Tidjane Cham calls for electoral register update and party unity ahead of 2025 elections. We also have the press review, guest interview, and the sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Thanks for being with us. As a reminder, we're broadcasting live on YouTube at WADR News and on Facebook, WADR English Service. With less than a year to the 2025 presidential elections in Côte d'Ivoire, opposition leader Tidjane Cham has called for unity within his party and urged the government to update the electoral register, ensuring broader voter participation. Addressing a crowd of enthusiastic supporters during the weekend, Cham emphasized the need for an inclusive electoral process while positioning his party, the PDC, for a robust campaign to regain state power. WADR's Sankule Janko reports.
Tidjane Cham delivered his speech to a large crowd of enthusiastic supporters who gathered to hear him. His remarks centered on the electoral process ahead of the 2025 elections. He called on the government to initiate a new review of the electoral register in 2025, in line with electoral law. According to Cham, his move would allow more citizens to register and participate in the upcoming elections.
The law mandates the government to conduct an annual voter registration exercise. We are therefore calling for an RLE in 2025, ideally in February. It is evident that the issuance of nationality certificates has been a significant hurdle. The government must organize this RLE in 2025. Every Ivorian wishing to register must be given the opportunity without facing any barriers.
The opposition leader also addressed the divisions within the party, urging unity amid challenges to his leadership. One prominent dissenter, former Minister Jean-Louis Billon, has announced his candidacy for the 2025 presidential race. However, the PDCI, according to its spokesperson, plans to rally behind Tidjane Cham as its presidential candidate.
In any human organization, especially a democratic one, the exchange of ideas and ambitions is a dynamic, ongoing, and necessary reality. This is entirely normal. However, we must remain focused on preserving what truly matters: cohesion, mutual respect, and fraternity. We will approach our convention to officially endorse our presidential candidates with calmness, unity, and a spirit of solidarity.
With less than a year until the presidential elections, the PDCI is already preparing for the electoral battle. The opposition, aiming to regain state power, has formed a working group to draft a social program to present to the Ivorian people.
Sankule Janko with the details of our Abidjan correspondent Albin Adet's report.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
Let's take you back to Nigeria and region Usma Umar for the press review.
And we begin the day with Daily Trust newspaper that is leading with this story. Stampedes killed 213 Nigerians in 11 years. And you have an infographic here that shows the number of people that were killed in different stampedes across the years. And just below that, you have 2025 budget. Scrapped Niger Delta sports ministries get 2.3 trillion naira. And you have riders to this story. It's embarrassing. This is according to an organization called CISLAC. And then you have appropriation bill lacks fiscal discipline. Atiku Abubakar, the presidential candidate of the PDP in the last presidential election, is saying there. Next newspaper that we're taking a look at today is New Telegraph, and it's leading with this story. Stop politicizing food stampede deaths, federal government tells politicians. This is a response to some comments that have followed the stampedes that have happened in Nigeria over the past few days. And just below front cover picture, you have waning power of incumbency, how hardship, abuse of power fuel opposition's rise to authority. This is a report on page 9 of the New Telegraph. And the Guardian newspaper is leading with this story. Distrust, others slow financial inclusion amid 4.3 trillion naira outside banks. And quickly, we take a look at Nigerian News Direct, which is leading with this story. Christmas, respite for Nigerians as fuel pump prices crash nationwide. With two riders, one says PMS, that is petroleum motor spirit, sells for 990 naira, 935 naira across states. And this is the much we have for you on this segment of Press Review. I hand you back to the studio.
Usma Omar there with the Press Review.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
This segment of Newslink takes us to Liberia, where despite ongoing political impasse at the legislature regarding the removal of Mbato Speaker Fonati Kofa, the country's 2025 fiscal budget was passed by the majority bloc of the House of Representatives and concurred by the Senate. Our guest this afternoon is Anderson Miame, Executive Director of the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia, CENTAR.
What we have seen with this current budget process is concerning, especially so regarding the approval by the legislature. We've seen the president submitting the budget late. They submitted the budget on November 28, 2024, which is in violation of Chapter 17.1 of the Public Financial Management Law that requires that the new budget be submitted at least 2 months or no later than 2 months to the start of the new fiscal year. So from November 28th to January 1, which begins the new fiscal year, that time interval is not 2 months. So it means that it falls short of the timeline required by law.
What do you think will happen now that the Senate has concurred with the majority bloc in the House of Representatives for the passage of this instrument?
What that means is that key things may not be considered. When you do a process in haste or in hurry, as they've done, you miss out on a lot of things. For example, over time, we've had challenges around spending entities presenting reports on previous resources received. That has been a traditional challenge in Liberia in terms of the budget process. We're seeing that surfacing with this whole process that has unfolded. That spending entities did not even appear in the first place. It means that assuming without admitting that they submitted report to the Ministry of Finance, we then submitted the report to the legislature didn't have the opportunity of reviewing those reports and asking them critical questions. And all of that, especially so those from the revenue side of the budget, which makes the whole process concerning. So the point here is citizens' priorities might not be considered fully. Some sectors and institutions that may require far more resources to work may not get them because of the manner and form in which this process has unfolded.
How would you describe the Senate's concurrence with the majority bloc in the House of Representatives when it is fully aware of the political crisis in the lower house?
The Senate concurred with the lower house on the same day the House filed the budget to them. So that's even concerning as well, because we expect a level of review of these things. Normally, or some of the time, the lower house will pass on an instrument and the Senate will have time to review it. They will identify some things and get back to the lower house and have a discussion. But that is not the case in this instant case. So it could be that not much was there for them to see, but with the level of scrutiny that took place, not marching or not meeting minimum standard in our mind, it means that the approval by the Senate or the concurrence by the Senate is problematic. So the long of the short is this whole budget, the transparency around it, the robustness around it, the legality in terms of meeting the basic laws, the executive violated because they submitted late. So it's just concerning. We're hoping that moving forward, the government can learn lessons from what has happened.
Anosim Miame is Executive Director of the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia, CENTAR. Here is Sankule Janko with sports.
Hello there, warm welcome and thank you for joining us. The first leg of the final round of the African Nations Championship CHAN 2024 qualifiers delivered an exciting mix of results on Sunday, setting the stage for a dramatic second leg clashes. In a highly anticipated West African derby, Cote d'Ivoire secured a commanding 2-0 win over Burkina Faso. Omar Konate's brace at the start, Felix Hofo-Ebuani, highlighted the Elephants' strength, putting them in a solid position for the return leg in Bamako. Defending champions Senegal were held to a 1-1 draw by Liberia in Monrovia. Seydina Mbaye's opener for Senegal was cancelled out by Ability's late equalizer. With the return leg set for Dakar, Senegal will rely on their home advantage to progress, according to CAF official website. Meanwhile, Nigeria and Ghana played out a goalless draw in Accra, with both teams showing their defensive ability. The second leg next week promises to be a fierce battle as both sides aim to secure qualification. Elsewhere, Sudan secured a 2-0 away win over Ethiopia, while Mauritania edged Mali 1-0 in a closely contested match. Cameroon, meanwhile, secured an important 1-0 away win over Central African Republic. South Sudan earned a narrow 3-2 victory over Rwanda in a thrilling encounter. As the first leg of qualifiers have been concluded, all eyes are on the second leg fixtures starting December 25, where teams will fight for a place in CHAN 2024 to be played in Kenya, Tanzania and Uganda in February next year. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
We've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Maudoju for the technical support. Do interact with us via our social media platforms, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is our health program, Well Body, with Oge Obiarika. I am Augustine Cully. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Nibe County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Gulf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your opinions.